Welcome back to the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. My name is Chris, and thank you for being here with me today. We're going to be talking some more about companion planting. It's actually a question from our friend Marty out at Black Flag Farms in Texas. He was asking me about some plants that he is planning to plant this next year, and I'm going to give you a little bit of ideas on things you should plant with these if these are things you want to plant as well. And these will grow up here in Western Washington as well as there in Texas. So that covers most of the climates here in the United States. But before we get into that, I'd like to remind you to head on out to www.havenhomestead.com, where you can see our website, see all about what we have going on here on that website, see pictures of the farm, see what we're up to, see what classes we have coming up, etc., etc. Also, please consider supporting us on Patreon. That is www.patreon.com/havenhomestead. And if these episodes are helping you out, helping you to live a more sustainable life, please consider supporting us on Patreon to keep this going. We are also on YouTube at Haven Homestead. You can listen to all the episodes there and watch our videos. Also, please head on out to our other social media sites. We are The Haven Homestead on Instagram and just Haven Homestead on Twitter. I've got 5 posts now on Instagram. We just started at beginning of November or something, so I haven't posted too many things. I don't post myself doing a kissy face with the peace sign and all that very often, so you're spared that, thank goodness. But we're also on Facebook on Haven Homestead 2009. Also, I think if you just search, Haven Homestead 2009. If you just search Haven Homestead, I think you'll come up with a few options, and it says Haven Homestead at Haven Homestead 2009 on Facebook. I'm not really sure how exactly all that works, but that should get you in the right direction. And you can hear all of our episodes, and you can find out all the things that we have posted there on our website at havenhomestead.com. And if you're passionate about growing indoors like we are, please head on out to happyleafled.com. And I believe Lindsay has something to say about it. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Vic Zatteray and his team at Happy Leaf LED are changing the way growers think about grow lights. Happy Leaf LED is no joke lighting technology that really works. The lights are affordable, powerful, and efficient. With their Anywhere Anytime garden kits, they'll change the way you think about hydroponics, too. For more information on Happy Leaf LED, go to happyleafled.com. You'll be happy you did.
Thanks, Lindsay. Now we're going to get into our topic at hand from Marty. Oh, and I also want to tell you that we are over 5,000 listens right now on Spreaker. They keep track of how many downloads and then streaming plays we have, and we are over 5,000 listens now. So, round of applause, and thank you to all of you out there that are listening to these. And I really appreciate your support and your telling people about this podcast. If you have like-minded people, and I love hearing from people that listen to the show. It sure makes my day when someone tells me what they like about the show, or if they even just like listening. I really appreciate it. So, let's get to the topic at hand. We are talking about companion planting, some of these lists that Marty had for what he wants to grow down in Texas. So Marty said he wanted to grow tomatoes, walking onions, crookneck squash, dragon egg cucumbers, strawberries, asparagus, several kinds of hot peppers, blackberries, and a few different trees like pawpaws, peaches, apples, and pecans. So these are some of the first things that he wanted to start with. So I wrote down a few things. I didn't go into companion plantings for the trees, but I believe I've talked about this before, as in fruit tree guilds. And if you're interested in looking at fruit tree guilds, then, or plant families is what some people call them, then you can find out what plants will help all these the different kinds of trees, because certain trees react better with certain kinds of plants. However, I think that in most cases, having something like a comfrey close by so that you can chop and drop the leaves on top of around the roots, and then it will give those nutrients back into the soil while inhibiting new weed growth. Or if you just got to think about what the plant needs. If you have some rhubarb nearby, because they have nice big leaves that will shade out and break down, you can throw them on around the bottom of the trees. Or you can plant daffodils in a ring to help stop the grass encroaching on the tree. Just things like that. Most fruit trees need the same sort of things, but not all fruit trees need the same sort of things. It's kind of a catch-22, two double-edged sword. So you just have to do a little bit of research, and I'm not going to talk about fruit trees anymore. Now we're moving on to tomatoes. So in episode 14, which I told Lindsay, I was showing her my notes here, and she said, "Oh, episode 14 was the companion planting episode, and this is episode 41." So it's kind of funny. They're just same numbers, just backwards. So we're going to talk about the tomatoes real fast. So tomatoes love carrots, and I believe that is the name of the best companion planting book that I have found. Carrots Love Tomatoes and Roses Love Garlic is the name of the book. Got it right here next to me. So, they love carrots. Now, when you plant something next to something else, so we have tomatoes, we have carrots, then you got to think about what the carrots need, because the carrots might not just need tomatoes. So, what you could do as well is plant rosemary next to that, and the rosemary will help the carrots and the tomatoes. Everything will work kind of in a symbiotic sort of situation here, so you can plant them together, but just take care as to sunlight penetration, making sure that everything has enough sunlight. Or you can plant black salsify with those. Tomatoes also love onions, and they love leeks, which are kind of in the same family. Onions, leeks, shallots, garlic, and chives, I believe, are all part of the same alum family. So go ahead and plant with your tomatoes these carrots, onions, leeks, maybe some rosemary, some black salsify. I'm not sure where that grows. It's a plant that I've never tried to grow before. But rosemary grows about anywhere, especially if you have dry climate. It's a Mediterranean herb, so it should do well in places that are a little bit drier. It even works out here in western Washington, where it's much wetter. Now, as a side note, when you have those carrots in storage, you have them in your cold root cellar or something, store them far away from apples, because if they're stored next to apples, the apples will develop a bitter flavor. And that's just something interesting I found out. I was like, oh, I had to share that. And that's a neat little thing that was in the book. He also said he wanted to grow some hot peppers. Well, I looked up sweet peppers. I mean, there's lots of hot peppers, and I believe a lot of their needs are the same. With peppers, grow basil. Basil and peppers need similar nutrient requirements and needs. So they only need the same amount of water and sun, and they help each other. Also, if you want to plant okra near your peppers, they don't hurt each other, but the okra can be used as kind of a wind block, because peppers are kind of a weak plant. They'll get broken easily. They're brittle. So that is something to think about when you're planting your peppers. And I don't know, I mean, there's lots of people who say, do this to the soil to make them hotter or make them sweeter or whatever. I'm not a pepper connoisseur. I grow Szechuan peppers, and those come on a tree. So I haven't had really good luck with the other kinds of peppers so far. But I will. I mean, I just haven't learned how to grow them. It's not luck. It's a skill set. So I haven't learned how to grow peppers very well. But I'm going to still try. And I haven't had very good results so far. So I'm going to keep trying, as should you, even if you haven't had good success. So the walking onions are something we tried, but right after we tried it, I think that there was something happened to them, like they were dug up by some gophers, or they were eaten by the geese, got into the into the garden and mowed them down, or I don't know, something. And we started having some walking onions, and they don't actually. The reason why they're called walking onions, I had to explain this to the kids, is they're top set onions. So the onion stalk will grow up and set the sets on top, the seeds, the bulbets on top, and then the stalk will kind of wither and will deposit those baby onions into a new spot. So that's why they're called walking onions, because the onion plant will walk and then it'll grow. It'll grow tall and then deposit them, however tall the stalk was, away from the base of the plant, and then that will grow a new plant. Now you have two, and then they'll go in different directions, and then you'll have more growing up. Now you have four, and they'll all lay down in different directions, and so it can spread that way, which isn't a bad thing because it's very useful. But the onions themselves aren't very big, so just keep that in mind when you're planting walking onions. Now, the information I have here is for all kinds of onions and onion families: leeks, shallots, like I said earlier, garlic, and stuff. So don't plant them. I learned this the hard way. Don't plant any peas or beans around them. We planted onions in with our peas. We had a poor pea yield, and our onions did not grow at all. I mean, they were just little tiny, spindly looking things there until they died off. So, and we planted them in a raised bed, so there wasn't any way to get around it. We learned that the hard way, and then come to find out that that's like one of the big no-nos with onions, is planting peas or beans in the proximity there. Also, the onion parasites go from onion to onion, so try to spread them around your garden a little bit, and they will benefit. Just be careful where in your garden you put it, but they will benefit from not being so close together. It's a little more disorderly. It's nice to have them in a row so that you can dig them up easily, but just for the pest's sake, you can spread them around. Now, I think, that being said, I think I would still try to grow them together, just because they'll be easier to find and use. Now, you should plant with your onions or your onion families. You can plant beets, strawberries, which strawberries is one of the ones we're going to talk about. And I didn't find that much about strawberries, so just remember about the onions and strawberries go well together, or grow well together. Your tomatoes, your lettuce, and summer savory, as that's one of the herbs. So you grow these, the cabbages, the beets, the strawberries, the tomatoes, lettuce, and summer savory, all with the onions, and they'll all help each other, because either they need different light needs or root needs, or they help repel each other's predators. Also, plant your onions families near your roses, and it will help your roses through, I believe it gives off kind of a smell that deter aphids and stuff like that off of your onions. I don't want to make this just a list of this, and that, hurry and write it down. But I want to give you an idea give you ideas of things you should look for seeds in for this spring's garden coming up. Now with the squash, something interesting I learned about squash, and I won't go into the whole list, because I did the list on the last one on episode 14. So give that a listen to if you want to learn some more companion planting. But one of the things I learned about radishes or squash is you plant a few radishes in the mound with the squash, and it will keep the squash beetles away. Now, don't harvest the radishes; just let them stay and go to seed. Let them just grow and die off themselves or whatever, because it will continue to repel these squash bugs. Also, nasturtium, which is a super useful flower, looks good. All parts are edible. It will also repel those squash bugs. One more piece of advice with planting squash is if you plant later, so if you plant it like early, like as soon as you can, you're probably going to have a bad bug problem. But if you can hold off a little bit and plant it a little bit later, you will most likely have much fewer bug damage because of you're not in the main time of the year. The plants aren't ripe exactly when the squash bug fly in, that sort of thing. So plant it a little bit off time, and the person that I read this said that she's found that midsummer squash planted in midsummer has a lot less bugs on it. All right, so we're gonna cucumbers. Now he mentioned dragon's egg cucumbers, which we had some of those from a friend, and they're really, really cool. But we just did regular pickling cucumbers this year, and we planted them next to beans, which is something that you're supposed to do apparently. But man alive, they went crazy. I could not believe how many cucumbers we got. We had so many cucumbers. Every time we went out, we'd probably get 5 or 6 off the plants. And it got to where we were you had a cucumber in your hand, dipping it in salad dressing or salt and pepper or vinegar or whatever. I mean, we ate cucumbers like, I don't know, 2 meals a day. Not just the cucumbers, but we ate cucumbers with our stuff. I was pretty tired of cucumbers by the time the season was over. But man, we had a lot of cucumbers, and I thought it was because we finally got an automated watering system, but I really think that it has a lot to do with that they were planted right with beans. Cucumbers are also apparently offensive to raccoons, so if you plant them with your corn, that will help keep the raccoons off your corn. Interesting, and I think something to be noted for those that live around those areas. Do not plant any potatoes around your cucumbers or aromatic herbs. So don't be putting your sage or your basil or your rosemary or any of the things that are really aromatic around your cucumbers. They don't like it. But plant the radishes with them, just like you would for the cucumbers. Plant the radishes, or just like you would for the squash. Plant radishes with the cucumbers, and it will help to deter the beetles that eat them. So, radishes, very useful. I'm going to have to use more radishes. And I like growing radishes. They're so easy. I got some daikon radishes, and I got so many seeds off the daikon radishes. It was just crazy. But they never really grew any roots. I think it was because I had way too much nitrogen in the soil and because of the rabbit manure, so that they didn't really need to grow, didn't need to store much in the way of roots, into their root, because they just had so much nutrients, and they had really good top growth, which of course then they went to seed, and I just had to harvest tons and tons of seed. But I really I like radishes. They're easy to grow, and the radish greens are really good to eat. So strawberries, we talked a little bit about that with the onions. Plant some onions with your strawberries. Also, borage, which is a really neat flower, really useful, and then your spinach. And I couldn't find anything on strawberries particular, but I found a diagram of French intensive gardening, and strawberries, borage, and spinach were all together in a raised bed. So I figured that that's probably a good choice for that. And I think that the raised beds are really nice because you can kind of make a contained system with your companion planting. And the last plant we're going to talk about is asparagus. Now, asparagus is an interesting plant but you can plant, so you can harvest your asparagus before you even plant your tomatoes. So if you have a row of asparagus, in the early spring it'll shoot up those spears. You chop the spears off, then plant your tomatoes on either side. Your tomatoes will grow up on either side, and your asparagus will, send up a few of the spears that you're not going to cut off, the fronds or whatever. You just let them kind of do their thing, and neither of them hurt each other. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes each other, but the tomatoes produce solanine, which is a kind of compound that deters or kills or something asparagus beetles. So I don't know. I just think that's fascinating that they make that there's so many plants that can keep away the other plants as pests. It's just it's so intricate and amazing. And when you're doing your designs, your permaculture designs, to know these interactions, I think really adds an element to the design that just regular person wouldn't know. Kind of gives the permaculture designer or someone who studied these companions a leg up, I think, in their war against the pests. So I hope, Marty, you've that if you're listening, that you've found a few things you can do, and anybody else out there who wants to plant. I mean, these are very common things to plant, but if anybody else has any questions about what to plant with whatever, you can search on the internet or send me a message, and I'd love to hear from you. See, he also said he was looking for want to plant some blackberries. Now, out here where we live, blackberries grow wild, and they grow with everything and on everything and through everything. But I understand the thornless blackberries one to do. And when you're doing like, I'm not sure if raspberries and blackberries they have the same sort of things, but the primocane meaning the first canes, the first year growth, certain raspberries will grow on the first year growth, where the other varieties only grow on old wood. So the benefit to the primocane is you can go in at the end of the year after you've harvested and just mow it down. Take your lawnmower or your brush hog or whatever and just mow them down, and they will grow back up the next year and produce fruit, no problem. But the other kind, and the name of it slips my mind, but the other kind of raspberries, you have to let the wood go 1 year and it will produce the next year. But they're sweeter typically, from what I've heard. My limited knowledge on that is that sometimes they have a better flavor, but I don't know. Just leave it up to you to decide. So, well, I hope this has been useful for you. I've enjoyed learning about these things and passing it on to you. Just a reminder, head on out to our website, www.havenhomestead.com, and I hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this has been the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. Thanks for listening.